declarations of interest like to be made? I'll move that we note Councillor Cupper's apologies and grant him a leave of absence for today's committee. If I could get a second. Councillor Vucic, thank you. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed or abstentions, that's carried. Just by way of a few new announcements, just acknowledging the passing of Pope Francis on Monday. As a Catholic boy, Catholic school boy, I know that this passing of the leader of the Catholic Church will affect thousands of Far Northerners across our mid, north and far north parishes, but also the hundreds of thousands of fellow Catholics in New Zealand and the billions of Catholics worldwide. And so with that, it's in the rest of the Lord and the future watch. It's out to avoid ki ai te oki oki na tōne tanga, kia piti ki ai te mana matanga. Also want to acknowledge that we have Anzac Day services coming up this Friday for elected members, or for, I don't know when they'll publish this meeting, or for the public, or for any of our whānau in the room today. Our council will be publishing a list of services available this coming Thursday. So if you are aware of any local services, then please let us know and we'll make sure we include that. There isn't really a comprehensive single portal for the Far North as a district as a whole. So our council will try and collate everything they know for everyone to be aware of. And finally, I want to congratulate Councillor Court on becoming a trustee for our Top Energy Consumer Trust. And I know that your governance expertise, and I think you've been chair before on the trust. Your governance expertise is going to be invaluable for all of us here for governing our Top Energy Consumer Trust. Congratulations. With that, we will get into our deputations. Today we have Hilary Sumter, who is deputising this committee about the redwood tree that fell from a council reserve to the Kiri Kiri Retirement Village property. Now, before I pass over to Hilary, can I just say we are very fortunate and have dodged the bullet off the bat. And this is where I would like us to make sure we follow up on, because I haven't. But I want to acknowledge the fact that at the beginning of my mayoralty, to come and meet with me with a call to see these redwood trees fell because of the danger they imposed on our people at that time. And before that, actually, this council has gone to the extent that they can with arborists, and those reports have always come back that with proper looking after or trimming or stuff like that, the costs and because it previously has been quite contentious with people wanting to see the benefits, they have outweighed actually doing away with them. We've had a near miss. I do not want to see this again. So I'm grateful to Councillor McNally for coming to meet with you, I believe, last week through Cyclone 10, and that you're here today to give a deputation to us so that we can move forward with whatever that looks like with options on the table. So I'm happy to welcome you up and to pass the time over to you to give your presentation.
Kia ora, Your Worship. Kia ora tātou, ko Hilary Sumter, and as our Mayor has said, I'm the Chief Executive at Kiri Kiri Retirement Village, and thank you for having us all here today and being willing to share with us the fright that we're still getting over. With me, I have our former Chair and Chair of our shareholders, Mike Sim, our Deputy Chair, Kylie Mooney, our Director, Steve Soufflot, who is also a Director on our Health and Safety Committee, and more importantly, I've got Garen and Judy Brewer, whose 16-year-old son was the one we almost lost the other day. Now, Garen and Judy both work for us. They've been long-standing employees, and Finn is working for us in a holiday job. So it's really great that they could come here today. We wouldn't put Finn through this yet. So slide number one, that's sequoias or redwoods in the Sequoia National USA, where they belong. The next slide shows the redwood trees as they stand beside us in our reception area. Now, the tree that fell was further down the stand. If I could have the next slide, please. This gives you an overview of how close they are to the village, but also on the other side, the Wendywood Lane side by the supermarket, they're in worse condition than the ones that stand beside us. There's about 105 left now. Here we've got the damage to the garden shed. Finn was sitting inside there. We keep saying he had headphones on. You know, who knows what could have happened, and it didn't, but we're all still really rattled by what happened. Here's the tree itself as it lay on the reserve. And then in the next slide, we've got the tree that's found, and it's showing rot inside its, although it fell in one piece. This is after the tree safe came in on Friday to clean it all up. And then the most telling slide is the next one, I believe. So Councillor McNally actually sent this one to us after he'd been on. Redwoods survive in a stable by intertwining their roots with each other, and they're shallow rooted and they stretch about approximately 100 feet and they intertwine together. The root ball on that tree has no interconnection. Obviously, some of the roots have broken as it fell, but that was not a stable tree, but that was one that was not picked up by the arborist report last December. This was a healthy tree at that point, but obviously it wasn't. And Finn had seconds, less than seconds to get out, and again, the what ifs. But interestingly, the tree didn't crack, as I think we reported in media. Judy and Garen were just telling me that the tree made popping noises, and he didn't know what they were, which is when the tree came falling down. So there wasn't a big loud announcement that a huge tree was falling. It happened super quickly and super scarily. I've included in here the amount of maintenance it takes us to look after these trees every year and the amount of gardening cleanup. And at the end of the day, we built that village with those trees there, so that's on us. It does just add a lot, but end of the day, it's about people's lives. It's far more important. So we spend hours cleaning out drains. The gardeners on the next slide, they spend hours cleaning up the debris. Where is the things? Yeah, so hours every year cleaning up the foliage. Now, the foliage from these trees seems to fall a lot more up here because of our climate. So we get a lot more debris. And on Thursday, when that was all over the driveways and roads around the village, it becomes lethally slippery as well. So chance of some more damage. The trees were planted in 1927 by George Alderton, how could I forget? And they've got nostalgic value. They've got no true value to Kirikiri. They are planted as a shelter belt for the then orchards. There are no orchards there now. And they do provide some shelter, but they're an exotic tree that's grown too fast. And so they are not as stable as they would be in their native environment. So that's a real risk. There's another photo there just of more debris and how close the trees are to our village. And I think the end of the day is that they shouldn't be there. And we could be having, we could have been asking you all to come to a funeral today instead of what happened. And the unpredictability of this and the ambiguity of the arborist report just is a risk that I don't think council can take. They are not our trees. They are not our responsibility. They are council's. And the next time this happens, it could be a school child walking through that reserve with their headphones on, could fall on the trees in Hawkins Crescent. A customer in New World supermarket car park could be the next one. Something has to be done. And, our recommendation and our plea, if we can just flick to the last end of what I wanted to say. Thanks, sorry, it's just more rubbish. Next one. Oh, sorry, and this is our brilliant suggestion that we brought to the community board some years ago, is to replant with titoki and puriri plus citrus tree, so that we can have what reflects our genuine community. Kids can walk past on the way to school and grab an orange, grab lemons for our gin and tonic. It's just something that we could do. And we had proposed supporting council to do this before and helping with it, but I think that's kind of off the table now because we've been petitioning for 15 years to remove these trees just before it happens. And then I put a recommendation that before council finds itself, as other councils have, Queenstown, Lakes, Auckland Council have all, they've known about risky trees and they have suffered because of it. So it's actually a plea for your own self to make this decision, make this recommendation to remove every one of the trees in both stands as soon as it's possible. There is a risk that WorkSafe could actually ask us to close down about half of our village. Unfortunately, WorkSafe haven't been sent an inspector as yet. And it's all very well that we had a great cleanup of the tree on Good Friday, but actually the tree was down. It was not going to do any more damage. The damage is what happens with the next tree. So that is all I wanted to say, but I would just like to ask Erin and Judy if they've got anything burning.
Yeah.
Judy will cry, I'm sure.
Yep. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, if my son had been like my daughter and had been sat there waiting for Debbie, the head gardener, to come with earphones in, looking at his phone, what would we be saying? Garen and I have worked at the village for many years, Garen over 15, myself over 10. Love the place, adore the place, love everyone in the place, colleagues, the residents, everything about the place. The only thing I can say about the place is those trees. They are a nightmare. What would have happened if it was a tree just down from that tree and it had gone onto the facility? You can't take that risk. I could be here now talking about a son that wasn't coming home from work that day. We were proud to have Finn working there with us, alongside of us. It's a wonderful place to work. But people over trees, please. We all love trees, but not these trees, please. Thank you.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, I've got one.
We'll go Councillor McNally, then Councillor Research.
Hillary, in your photo, I like your recommendation, and I'll be putting something similar to that later on. The photo, your overview of the photo, what wing is the closest to that row of redwoods, and who's in it?
So that's our Robinson wing, as we call it, which is our hospital level wing. These are people who are largely not mobile on their own volition. And we have a lot of staff parking down there as well.
How many rooms?
30.
Inexpensive rebuild.
Yeah, and also, where do those people go?
So, Hillary, thanks. I definitely support that. I've been in a similar situation with trees falling. That's frightening. But just very quickly, how many trees, you said that, but I missed it. I had a couple of questions, one of you answered. How many trees left?
There were 110. Blair King took out 6 when he was CEO, and now another one's fallen, so there's 105, 103.
103, okay. And is there room clear in the park to drop them without?
Mike Sim was just talking about this yesterday, actually, that there was a plan to drop them into the centre, wasn't there? Yeah. Because actually, sorry, what I didn't mention, we felled 6 trees on our own property at 127 Kitty Road some years ago, planning to sell the timber, and they were entirely rotten when they came down. So they could be, there's, arborists, they segment them when they take them out and drop them to the reserve.
Yeah, because I think we should be, as we did here in Koukou, getting a forest company in who experience in these sort of things and equipment to hold them as well, direct them. And if there's valuable timber, they're not rotten, there could be some savings in costs as well. So anyway, thank you for those answers.
Now the hardwood's rotten, and I grabbed a bit, just pulled it out of the centre of that tree,
That one was rotten,
which had already fallen through the thing, and that's completely rotten. It actually looks like a bit of old puri that's been eaten by the puri moth. Lots of food and digested stuff out the other end of it, holes all through it. They're buggered.
Yep.
Highly dangerous.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, Kylie, Steve, Hillary, and Garen and Judy, thank you very much for your deputation to us today. And you're very welcome to stick around, and we will be doing something about this. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just one thing, excuse me, Mayor. Your recommendation you put up, I will be recommending, we can only recommend to full council from this table, but recommending that the redwood trees are removed urgently to reduce the risk to the public who walk through from Hawkins Crescent to the high school and the residents in the retirement village and Hawkins Crescent residential homes. The reason being the financial risk to the ratepayer, insurance premium, excess, and loss of life potential. that would put us all in the room under manslaughter charge if we don't do something about it.
Thank you.
And thank you. With that, we are going to. We will adjourn for 5 minutes.
I lived that approach before, and he had a contact, whether it was him or not, that would give a 50% discount on the felling costs and take the risk that the trees are no good, as Steve points out, with that rock. That's the loss of
Oh, yeah, and they get.
something in it. That's the
The trees.
you get the tree, yeah. They take it away.
Turn it into chairs and tables for public use.
Probably not. They're gonna export.
If they're rotten. Rock goes.
Just hope they're rotting them. I don't know. I just
Make sure we sort this out properly. All right, we're back on, just checking again if you can hear us online. Thanks, councillor Foy. We are going to get into our agenda proper now and start on item 4.1, page 8, the confirmation of previous minutes. And it's to confirm the minutes of our meeting held on the 19th of March is true and correct. If I could please get a mover for those.
Second.
Councillor Vincent, seconded by Councillor Court, just asking if either of you picked up on anything from these minutes. I did have one to follow up on, but we probably don't have the people in the room to give this, but I just noted on item 7.11, we'll talk about our roading working group meeting minutes, and this is just a check-in before we see those come to us on the next agenda. Okay. The note there from myself was that attendees be listed with their name, who they are. So I expect to see that on the next working group update to this committee, or whoever needs to hear that. So that we don't forget it, because it won't be on our next agenda, isn't it? With that, we vote on this. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed or abstentions, that's carried. We now go to item 5.1, which is on page 17, or Koukou traffic calming petition response. The recommendation is that Te Koukou fund the installation of 2 temporary rubberised raised crossings and associated lighting on Settlers Way, or Koukou is identified in option 1 of the report. If I could get a mover for this.
I'm having a move.
Councillor Lethbridge and seconder. Deputy Mayor Stratford. Do we have Elizabeth online or your? Oh, you are in the room. Good, Elizabeth. We'll pass over to Councillor Visage.
Yeah, thank you. With similar comment I made at the community board, and it's something that worries me, and that is, I know Guy's still away. You remember that it was about February last year, April, February, the Auckland article about 500,000 spent on raised zebra crossings. And we looked at it, even made it to Parliament, called it a stir. And so my concern was that 580,000, I know there's 2, one is a speed bump. Are we actually getting value for money? Yeah, I support this. I want to see it happen. And I know the community board were keen to make it permanent, but concerned about the price as well. And so I'd probably go for the, and as per the recommendation of 195. But even that alone doesn't seem to make sense when I can actually show you costs that were purchased. It was done around with the plastic speed bumps, and it was way cheaper. I think you can buy the pieces for, depending on the size of the bump. Most expensive was about $35, I think. 35 or 66 and 35 for the small one. You put those pieces together. So that's just in the thousands of dollars. So can I just make a note that 195,000, sure there might be some lights and stuff. Can we have the confidence that we are getting value for money? Because I don't have that confidence, but I will support this going.
Elizabeth, would you?
So through the chair, just quickly, before I address Councillor Visage's comments, an update from the Koukou Community Board.
It was on my notes and I didn't read it.
Sorry. For the other members, although the staff recommendation was for the temporary installation, the community board has recommended the permanent installation as a first choice, with the temporary only if the permanent can't be funded. So just a quick note of what their preference was. In regards to the costing, and I'll invite Ed, my transport manager, to pop in at any time with this. He and I have sat down and we've gone through the estimates. It is quite difficult to come up with a firm cost when we're at scoping, right? So we don't have a final design for the permanent yet. Although going through it, I feel confident that we can construct it within the funding that we've asked for. I would rather ask for enough funding to do that construction one time, rather than come back to this group and ask for additional money if we kind of undercook what that estimate is. In regards to the temporary, I'm not sure the price paid for the platforms initially in Romani. The product that we're talking about here is quite a substantial product. It has the zebra crossing, for example, a 3-meter wide passage with approach ramps. It spans quite a wide road in Settlers Way, and the secondary crossing is similar, courtesy crossing, but same construction, just without the zebra markings. And again, the lighting installation, regardless of which option is chosen, is a permanent install.
Thank you for that. Deputy Mayor Stratford. And just noting, based off that though, both yourselves moved and seconded option 1. The temporary.
Yeah, I've just got a question quickly. So Elizabeth, you're saying that the 580 is what you need for the permanent, although it's not likely to cost all that much, but you can't give us an idea of how low it might be? No.
If I may, through the,
Don't do it. Sorry.
sorry, if I may, through the chair, we're in a situation here where we've had a request from the community, for traffic calming. We do not have a finalised design at this moment, and I've actually been on site myself. There are some issues, should we say, with actually selecting a final design. So what we have here is the best estimate that we can provide at this time with the information that we have. I'm confident that we can provide the crossings and the traffic calming with the funding that we've outlined. It is likely we can find cost savings, but at this time we cannot be sure what those cost savings will be.
And the other question that I had was around the in the budget implications. It says the council has uncommitted local share for projects that were not selected for subsidy by NZTA in this work category. So the funding that would be allocated is in a slush fund. No, I was trying not to use that word, but it's, so we're going to get more of these items coming to us because we haven't determined what to spend that money on.
So through the chair, I believe you have a workshop this afternoon on exactly that topic. What the paper was trying to identify is this is a work type that was identified in the LTP. We have local share setting against a traffic work type that could potentially be used for this institution.
Okay. And so that ends my questions. I do want to address the safety here in Okaihoa's at the community board meeting for their deputation, and it's the whole community, something to happen there. I am just a little hesitant around the how much does a life cost? Somebody has died, but I'd like to hear what others think, and I support an amendment if anybody's brave to go 580, but I can't move the amendment.
Just the funding for this is 100% local share. And in lieu of there not being any maps, the town centre zebra crossing, if we went permanent, which side of Lawn Street would that be on? On the state highway side or the school side?
I see Ed wants to speak.
If I may, through the chair, the zebra crossing would be made as a raised platform. That is a fixed location that we know, and we can have good confidence on the actual cost of that. The other location is yet to be finalised, and this is an issue that we do have. We've made staff have made our best estimate on what the cost would be based on our assumptions. And this is based on what the community has indicated. What we do not have is a clear set of guidance from the community, or we see a clear set of expectations from the community on what they actually want there. We know they want traffic calming, they want speed reduction, but there are also other issues that we need to consider, such as where the optimum point for pedestrian crossing could be. It may be that rather than commit to approval of funding at this moment, it may be better to actually allocate a smaller amount of funding for a design study in consultation with the community to give a clear steer for council and for staff on what is actually expected of that area. That would enable us to further refine the design down to something that the community actually needs and expects.
Can I ask why that isn't the recommendation on our paper today?
Through the chair,
Because that sounds great. It's just that wasn't presented to us. You asked us to fund a temporary or fund a permanent.
the current process that we have within council is to respond to the community needs in the best way that we see fit at this moment in time. We made the recommendation for the permanent and temporary costs. It would be a case that we would carry out this sort of detailed study as part of the design funded through that allocation. What we're doing is in fact separating out the design study in advance, funding that separately, so we would then have greater surety on the design costs for the permanent or temporary crossing points. Thank you for that.
I think personally, and others may disagree, I probably am more in favour of option one, knowing that our GPS will be getting reviewed and potentially would be subsidised funding to come from the central government for a permanent. But this report notes that this will be done in this fiscal year. So the temporary crossing, if we approve option one today, will happen before June. It'll happen right now for this community. And I don't want any more parents say, and I know that just because we've got a speed bump doesn't mean people don't see it. It's driver education and it's behaviours that kill people. But we don't know if it could actually help save someone. So I'd like to do something today. And that's just me, and I'm happy to support the
Kia ora, just on option one for the rubberized raised crossings, can staff please confirm, are these the same ones that were installed in Rawene?
So through the chair, they are not. They're what I want. Beefier is not a very technical term, but they are a more robust product. They are designed to mimic what that permanent concrete facility would be. So same type of ramps, same wide crossing surface marked for the zebra crossing with the zebra mark.
Good point. And the installation for these rubber crossings, will they be sturdier than the rubber crossings that were installed in Rawene? Because, so that's a yes, kapai. Only because I note that with the Rawene ones, I'm actually not even too sure if they're still there, because yeah, they were like, what I'm getting at is one, people were just driving over them and then they came loose. It was up to whoever was available to pull them back in line or put them back onto the road. So that's number one. Number two was that there were potholes before them and those weren't getting filled in. So when I think about those rubber bumps, have we put in place mitigation for these ones that are to be installed, if they are to be installed in Okaiho? Because cool installing them, but then we have to with the upkeep of it and everything.
Through the chair, a couple differences in as well. We have identified that it will be come on when they are a bolt down product. The difference between Rawene and these two things. The Rawene ones were individualized bumps, so much more edge to come up. Also sitting on a fairly steep downgrade. The difference in Okaiho is it's a fairly flat section for those two.
Thank you. or this end if on there to say that we need those ones and now we need to be brought back similar to the ones in Okaio, then kia ora.
Councillor Court.
I'm actually going to speak in favour of the suggestion put forward by Mr. Varley, that we go away, we design it properly, and we come back with a solution that the community agrees on. I think it's reactive to go out there today and put in a temporary raised temporary zebra crossing and a raised temporary courtesy crossing for $195,000. The two words in that sentence are temporary, and that's a lot of money. I appreciate that there was an accident there on the 28th of January. I'm not quite sure what contributed to that, and I'm not qualified to have an opinion on that. That is for subject experts to provide a report back to us and the community on what is the best mix of interventions to put in this community to address vehicle safety, pedestrian safety, cycle safety, and the school kids. So I would prefer that we moved an alternate recommendation, and we would need to take guidance from Mr. Varley about how much money would be needed to go away and do that work and come back to council with a design that has community support. But at the moment, we don't know that this one does. And at the same time, I'm mindful that this afternoon we're having a workshop on what to do with the uncommitted local share. And I have read the workshop papers for this afternoon, but I can't recall what they all are off the top of my head right now. There are other projects out there that need attention, and we need to make sure that we are triaging these in the correct order. And at the moment, I'm not sure what the correct order of that is, although I do know that the staff put this project forward for subsidy. It's very, very difficult when you sit here, as we did with the deputation this morning, and we hear that somebody's life might be at risk, and that drives an emotive response on all of us to act with urgency. Notwithstanding that risk, we've still got time to get this right. And I am, on the other hand, and I've lodged a legoima with council, I'm concerned about the cumulative impact of money that we are spending and out of process decision making, and the impact that might have on our 11.3% rate rise. So I just want to make sure that we've got a proper process in place for spending precious ratepayer resources, that we're spending it in the right place at the right time on the right design with support from the customer. And I'm not getting that confidence right here and now. As you said, why wasn't that an option put forward as option C? I think option B. Let's just get it right. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Mr. Varley. Mr. McNally. Oh, sorry, I've just got a quick question for staff. Yes, David. Was that option presented to our Koukou Community Board, an alternate motion, or as a proper study? One, no, and two, are staff aware of the Okaio Community Plan that our community board and this council adopted in 2021, where their most urgent request to us was Main Street Judder bars and traffic calming mechanisms, where they want it and the timeframe that it's expected to happen? What I'm saying based off that, and I agree with Councillor Core, but my concern is that just like with everything, we go back and say, what do you want? And like, we bloody told you. How many times do we have to tell you? Through a petition, through a community plan that we consulted on and adopted at our association, and the community board adopted and put it up to council, and council adopted, and yet now you're asking us again. So the way of that, if an alternate goes through, the way that we go back to the community is going to be. Councillor McNally.
Yeah, you should have answered some of those questions or asked the questions I was going to ask. Because I thought the initial thing was just to slow stuff down. So we could put some of those temporary strips in place at little cost other than what they cost to get and put in. They don't need lighting. It's just a speed bump, slow down. And then you can do the planning after that to create whatever's next. If you want to do a fully raised pedestrian crossing. I'm opposed to any spend of unsubsidised without a forward work program. And in relation to the emotive comment relating to this morning, I've got no emotion at all with those trees. All I'm after is there's massive financial risk to the ratepayer, and the risk is actually higher with consequential loss if we're negligent in our duty at this table. So that's my push. No emotive, just business. This is going to cost a shitload of money if we don't get it right, both items. And I'll come up with a few more later.
Councillor Court, are you moving a amendment or foreshadowing?
Mr. Barley wanted to speak and ask his go.
Through the chair, if I may. Elizabeth has just sent me through a note. We know the location of the existing zebra crossing. We could reasonably make that a permanent installation now. There is no need to change that location. The design for that should be fairly simple. The location of the other crossing is still open for discussion, I believe. It's open for detailed design, and that would have to be done as part of the discussion with the community. Now, you are correct that there is already a plan, but that plan itself doesn't identify specific locations. So yes, they have actually.
You need to ask the community, like, do you put it on the school side of Lawn Street because all those school kids need to cross over to go to the dairy, or do you put it on the town toilets and cycle trail side of Lawn Street because that's where all the tourists will be? You need to do foot traffic number.
Through the chair, that's exactly the question that we need to ask. So there is actually another option that you approve the installation of a permanent crossing at the zebra crossing, which is at the known site, already in use. The design study in consultation with the community board is then made for the alternate site. In the meantime, we install the temporary units, because they are temporary, they can be removed.
And reused.
Yes.
So it's not a one try buy,
No.
because that changes my mind again, Mr. Barley.
Could we take 5 minutes to write up something?
Yeah, I'd be happy. Let's do that because it was confusing.
Deputation.
Oh, he's giving me a deputation. He's just like, someone should pass me a note. I don't know that was possible. Sorry, we're going to take 5. Oh, so Grant is Just to keep you in the loop. Councillor Court, collusion with Mr. Barley. Now, what's the word for, not in a negative way, but collaboration, sorry. Collaboration. In collaboration with Mr. Barley is either an alternate motion or a one should this original fail, but I do note there councillor research and Deputy Shepard have removed and seconded option one, but it would read that Te Koukou, A, fund a permanent zebra crossing site for option two at the school where there already is an existing zebra crossing. And B, fund a temporary crossing point at the town centre following consultation with the community as per option one. Any questions? Do you prefer that? Or
Yeah,
would you
yeah.
like to defeat?
No, I can comment on that based on the feedback from the community board. The community board said something that's very similar, as Elizabeth would note it. They actually preferred a permanent solution rather than a temporary one. And that's a good way to go proceeding. But the concern that I raised, and one of my main concerns, was the $500,000 cost. Those are going to be 250,000 on top of that. And that reference I made to the 500K in Auckland, in there it also states what the real cost was, between 19 and 31,000. So if it's going to cost 19 to 31,000, let's allow for a bit of inflation and say up to say 40,000 to do a permanent crossing, raised crossing, then that's fine, not a problem. And this is the concern, you can't give an exact quote. And the community board and others around the table here are concerned about the overall cost. So I'm happy with that. And certainly the community will be happy with that. And I'll be happy to change the first thing we did to do that. But can we have a guarantee that it's going to be value for money? And that's what I said to you at the very beginning. And I'd like to see evidence of that. And then I'm happy on both counts. Thank you. I'm not
Just
asking,
making
I'm not asking to put a figure in there because
Can I just ask staff? So councillor research is, you know, like what is that? That's like 10%. So the cost for in Auckland to do this, something similar to this, is only 10% of the potential cost for us to do it in Okaiho town. How is that even possible?
Through the
Do
chair,
they use their own traffic management crew?
I would suggest that the costs that are represented there perhaps are not inclusive of design, do not include any lighting. So just the amount for the physical bump itself without the auxiliary line marking, signage, and everything else that goes along with it. I don't know that. I'm not sure where this number is coming from. And as Ed brought up, they're done in Auckland in bulk. We don't have the same mobilization costs, et cetera, et cetera. Sorry, Ed, did you want to add something?
Good Chair, yes. What Elizabeth has said is basically the issue we have. We do not know where that cost came from. It's in a press article. We've got no background figures to substantiate what those costs actually include. We've done a rough estimate of costs for these locations based on what we know of the area. We have a design risk in there because we do not know what the final design is going to be. And it is likely that those costs will come down. It's only time. I cannot give that guarantee.
have we done raised zebra crossings anywhere in the north?
Yes,
Can we not just use one of those designs? It's not rocket science I'm asking here. This is something we've done everywhere. They've done hundreds of those in Auckland. Surely we can look at that. We should know exactly what the design cost is. If the design cost is going to cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars and do a bespoke design, that's nuts. So that's my concern. Anyway, let's go with that alternative. And I'd like to see a full design and a breakdown of the cost coming to the table. We have to change things. to save money. So we
So you don't support this? as an
I do
alternate?
support that because it's critical. It wasn't an accident. It was actually a person got killed there. So it was fatality. And so we just can't sit on our hands. And it's not something new. This 2021, the community's asked for this. Again, there's been chain dragging and nothing really done. We've had all the time in the world to do it properly. And now we're faced with a,
So do you want that Te Koukou direct the CE to have staff investigate all this and bring it back to the table?
I'm happy to go with the recommendation on the table. We don't have a figure associated with it.
Like,
There's no figure associated with that.
Elizabeth's gonna email you.
Yep.
Are you happy for this alternate deputy mayor Stratford? That Te Koukou fund a permanent zebra crossing site as per option 2 at the schools, because it's actually 2 schools.
So what John was just saying, like, I want us to box on.
And B, fund a temporary crossing point at the town centre.
We'll just add one. Yeah, so I support this, but I am concerned about, the lack of this being, I mean, there wasn't a dollar value in the original recommendation, but we knew what it was through reading the paper, so.
My spidey sense tells me it'll be between 200,000 and 500.
So we need to put that in writing.
Well, like, look, that's what's in here. Like,
Okay, all right, yeah, I support. But you don't have an open checkbook.
And we don't.
within the
Within the,
estimated costings in the report.
it talks about that in the report. Where the bucket of money is.
Yeah, that sounds within the estimated costs outlined in the report. I'll support it like that. Cool.
Yeah, and can we have a-
See. That the final costs,
detailed final costing
detailed final costings
be presented to this committee?
and all within the estimated costs.
Yep.
Now, if every single paper is going to be like this one, we're going to be here till midnight. So
That might be,
councillor Research is the original mover to replace your motion.
Yep.
With this alternate.
yes,
Deputy Stratford, you happy?
Yes.
Given that it has changed, I will allow people to speak for or against it as appropriate. Would like to.
It says, I'm not sure if I'm actually the mover now, but I just want to address the design issue. We do have one. It's in Kiri Road and it's directly outside Huntington Mission. It's a raised pedestrian. So there is one. We can go and have a look at that. I am unfamiliar with those. I don't know what the road looks like. When we're designing a raised pedestrian crossing, I don't think it's as simple as picking up one design and taking it somewhere else. You have to consider stormwater, signage, lighting, design, temporary traffic management, disability access, skid resistance. I was told there's no emotion in this, but there is emotion in this. The petition stemmed communities concerned about road safety. So emotion and the community wanting the right outcome for their community. And they want something aesthetic, not just functional. They want something that considers traffic noise, not just dumping a plastic strip across the road that every trailer that rattles over is going to disturb them. So we've got an opportunity to get this right and go back out there and consult with them. So that's why I think the redrafted version addresses a lot of the debate. Thank you.
Anyone else?
No comment.
We'll put it to the vote. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstentions, that is carried. We will now,
River, hold your peace.
we will now go to item 5.2.
With the reputation.
Oh, sorry, that's right. Um, 5.2, review of the range of plastics accepted at Far North District Council facilities. I'm acknowledging that, Mr. Millichamp, our solid waste engineer, unavailable to speak to this. But we do have a recommendation on the table. And that is that we approve the suspension of accepting coloured number 1 PET plastic at council facilities as recyclable items from June 25 until sustainable options for them develop. And 2, approve the landfilling of the stockpile of plastic at an estimated cost of $45,000. If I could get a mover.
I'll see it.
Tag team today, did you restrict it?
Really sad that there's no end, not many end use for coloured plastics, number one. And I think it's going to be really confusing for people when, you're told to recycle number one, like nationwide, there's lots of messaging. So we have been accepting the colours for, since whatever it was, 20 or 2021 at our cost.
190 metric tons worth.
Yeah, and now that's a ratepayer burden. Yeah, and I wonder if we were, waiting for something at central government level that was going to improve our options for this, and that's why we face this decision today. But yeah, big project for comms. Is that you, Ruben, still?
What was it?
And Tamati, I don't know who's acting what at the moment, to change the messaging out there. But it comes down to the user. So the people that are buying their L&P in brown plastic, need to put the pressure on. I'm sorry, L&P.
From our agenda preview, this is only for our council facilities. Our private contractors who do curbside and do their job, it will be.
I know, I read the report, but the bulk of recycling is done at our transfer stations. People make it a day trip. They go there and they spend 45 minutes doing their recycling, and now they're going to be putting their brown, their green, their what are the bottles? Blue plastic bottles in, the water ones in the rubbish at the transfer station. So it's a big deal, and I'm reluctantly accepting the recommendation, but we need some strong messaging out there to householders to change their shopping patterns, really. Yeah. And to the producers of this coloured plastic, which is becoming less and less in my research behind reading the paper. I went deeper. More and more businesses are reducing the use of coloured plastic, so that's a good thing. Yep, that's me.
I'm going to go to Ruben before going to council research.
Yeah, happy to echo those sentiments through the chair. With my DNO hat on, I've had the opportunity to have a chat with Simon and discuss this report. It's just a reality. I think there was a hope, and this is not specific to us. Every council in New Zealand is kind of facing a similar situation. We were stockpiling this in hopes that the markets would open. Obviously, this material gets sold off. Other countries, China was one of the biggest ones who was accepting these types of materials. that stopped. The market has adjusted. You would have seen manufacturers starting to change how they, what plastics they're using because of this issue. So we've just been caught in a situation where we've just stockpiled this material for a period of time in hopes that the markets would open up so we can offload it. We're not seeing that. We're not seeing it in sight. And so in the meantime, we're out of space, which is why the proposal and recommendation is let's get it to landfill. I think there is a significant part that we have to play from the funds, which the team has already started to put together a comment on this, because it is a messaging. But again, I just want to reiterate, we're not the only ones. This is something that every council is having to deal with. We just happen to run out of space and need to make a decision. Kia ora.
Councillor Vesich.
I do echo the Deputy Mayor said, and thank you, Ruben. I think that we don't have the space to store, we have to do something, so I agree with this action. But just to I'll send staff through a contact that I'm not going up about for a reason, but I did, where there is a company that was trialling something in Whangarei, and they can take any plastic at all and put it and repurpose it. Doesn't go back as a bottle, it's actually used it into large bulk units. I can't describing it right, which is then goes into concrete, and it's encased in concrete. It's used in buildings and walls, whatever. But I'll send that through. So, but that's why I support the
Councillor Court, then Councillor Lavakina.
I want to acknowledge, I didn't get quite to say goodbye to Simon in person. The picture on page 24, which I asked him to put in at the agenda previously, would be clear what we're talking about. Customers are not going to change their habits. People are still going to buy L&P and Sprite and drink water out of a plastic bottle. So there's a big conversation we need to have globally around how we package food, but that's not the subject of today's paper. What I wanted to raise was, this is $45,000 of our budgeted money to landfill our stockpile. All the other councils, they may have land to stockpile their bottles, but they're deteriorating too. So ultimately they're going to have to landfill them. What's not clear to me is what the impact is, what they have on landfill, on the life of the landfill. And what I'm not clear about is what the impact of the custom will be, because if we go with option 1, we're going to absorb the cost for 1 month. And if we go for option 3, we absorb the cost in perpetuity, I guess, until there's a further solution or decision. So either way, there's a cost. And I just wondered if we would like to have a conversation about whether we support option 1 or option 3, because I suspect for a long time, people will continue to take their coloured plastics to the recycling station, and they won't. I don't think they will be receptive to the idea of getting there and being told they need to take them home again. I'm not sure 1 month is long enough. I just wondered if we wanted to consider extending the time frame or considering option 3 if there was an appetite in the room.
Thank you for that, Councillor Court. Councillor Akina.
Kia ora. Where is our current landfill site?
Puwera Waimata, or Taika Valley.
Oh,
In Whangarei.
so transported to Whangarei then. And then what is the cost per PET unit for if consumers are to recycle those at the dump site transfer stations? How do we put a number on it? How do we charge the customer?
We won't accept it and have to put it in the rubbish bag.
So go straight into the rubbish bag. Oh, ka pai. I'm always conscious of this. I've even try to change all my bottles to tin bottles as well, even being conscious that when I go to the supermarkets, it's hard not to buy meat packed and they've got, they're in little plastic covers here. That's a big issue for us everywhere. And Councillor Cole already talked about it, although it's not even on the agenda today. But a few weeks ago, I put up a post about how we've changed the transfer station in Koukou here now, and that was to allow for safer and a better experience. I know it sounds a little bit weird, but for our customers or ratepayers to come and have a brilliant experience, either dumping their rubbish or dropping off their recycles. And I know it sounds really, really strange, but the bigger picture to that is that if we provide a really great service, then what that hopefully does is it puts in the minds, maybe the unconscious minds of our consumers, to want to come to our transfer stations instead of throwing their rubbish on the side of the roads, throwing their packets or their bottles on the sides of the roads. And when I look at this, I kind of think, oh, geez, we're actually giving them another reason not to come to the transfer stations, number one. And then if we're adding on a cost to it, then they're going to go, well, why would I do that when I can just throw it on the side of the road, litter, put it in a big bag and continue for, because littering is different from illegal dumping. I've learned District Council and NZTA. So that's a part of my growing concern, is how do we invite our ratepayers, our consumers, to bring all of their rubbish, whether it be recyclables or breakdown of rubbish, because it takes around 450 years for plastics to break down in the soil. And so how do we invite them with smiles on their faces to come to our transfer stations without adding on costs? That is my biggest concern here. And my feet, they haven't landed on whether I'm going to be supporting this motion or supporting the option number 3. Kia ora.
Councillor McNally.
If you Google Future Post, it was designed by a fencer, built for a farmer from plastic posts, and they recycle all these plastics. And where you doing them? Have we contacted them? Maybe we don't need a landfill. We might just need to relocate it to them. Might cost us cartage. So what?
Without having Mr. Mullichamp in the room, we cannot. I remember us asking questions to that effect in our preview about alternates and stuff like that. And it was that the current 190 tonnes of coloured plastics we've got are rubbish now, and we're going to have to dump them no matter what. But ongoing, there's a question mark there. And that before that,
Just be a phone call, wouldn't it?
before that, what did he say?
That's the question.
It was all greenwashing anyway. We were selling these to China and Thailand, and then they're putting them in those, what's that thing Mayor Jepo wants? You burn it to make power. All our plastic recyclables are all going over there to waste energy.
Footprint of that doesn't look good.
Okay, we're on item 3, so I'm just going to press on for you to just decide on what you want to do. Vote against it if you don't want to vote for it.
One last piece from Mr. Chair.
Oh,
Just an
sorry.
additional note through you, Mr. Chair. On the issue of the recycling of the materials that we've currently got, because we've been hanging on to it for such a long time, it's deteriorated past the point where those could be recyclable product. Again, we've been sitting on this for several years now, so it's the unfortunate outcome of sitting on this and having it exposed to the environment.
Right. It has been moved and seconded, and we are going to suspending accepting colours. That's on the table, and filling the 190 tonnes of stockpiles. Has been moved by Deputy Mayor Stratford and seconded by Councillor Vuzic. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed or abstentions? It's carried.
Against.
Reported, Councillor. Item 5.3, water and transport. For the reports. that can be found on page 25. We will pass over to councillor Koukou with this.
Thank you, Your Worship. 3 items today. First, I've been compiling a list, and we discussed this at the agenda preview of all the items that elected members have raised at Te Koukou that have not yet received papers or been addressed. What I have asked for, with support of the mayor, is to create a new bespoke agenda item that captures the elected member requests, so they're not lost. And the ones I've got on there at the moment are Waitangi National Trust application to seal the River Falls Road, future rehabs, the accounting treatment on the transfer of funds between NZTA funding categories, stormwater strategy, Haitai Airport, Turner Centre stormwater subcatchment, and Hihitahi Rise. There will be others that I may have missed, so if I have, please send them through and we'll get them on future agenda items, hopefully. I lagoined the police in regard to my concern about illegal number plates, and they have now come back to me and they've said the total number of motor vehicles stopped for having unauthorised registration plates is 1,019 nationwide. And the total number of notices issued is 1,019, and the total number of notices paid at 73. Do that what you will, but it's a remarkably low number. And finally, because I sit on the Northland Freight Group, they have been for some time requesting NZTA to consider the legislative needs of the freight industry into the design of the new Northland corridor. Specifically, they were talking about the requirements for heavy freight to be able to pull off and check their load, to take their mandatory 15-minute breaks, to check their work logs, to dump their effluent if they're a stock truck. And thanks to Kingston Brands, the journey manager for Northland, a meeting was finally held in Whangarei on the 11th of April, which I was invited to attend. And we had the engagement lead for Tahana to Whangarei, the investment case workstream team, national road carriers, and we sat there and we were advised. And it's probably easier if I just quickly skim through it, and in the time I won't read it all. Registrations of interest have closed, and we have confirmed a consortium who will be going through the pre-shortlisting process. Final shortlist work is underway, tender mid-May. NZTA will work with them over the next 9 months to complete the design. Conclusion of that process is called financial close. Aiming for construction to commence June, July next year. It's contract for design and build, 25 years, which, by the way, will account for $1 in every $10 of the country's total infrastructure spend in the next 25 years. The road will have similar form and function as Puhoi to Warkworth, designing for 110 with a maximum grade of 8%. They're looking at service centres at all the exchange points, which are Warkworth, Hotia and Tahana. They are looking to make sure that they're truck capable and capable of having truck parking both ways. There are technical challenges, so they're keeping optionality open because of flood risk at all of those sites. They're going to continue to work with the group and make sure that all of their needs are considered in the design. The minister's made the announcement this morning on the route, and I'll send you all an email about what that route looks like. And I think that's the option that Joe Carr promulgated through Regional Land Transport Committee. The road will be 4-lane grade separated up to the road at Whangarei. They are currently looking at stock truck dump effluent sites, but don't have a site yet. And they're looking to integrate existing and consented private applications for service centres. They have been engaging with Kiwi Rail. It's a tricky area because it's in the coastal marine environment. And I think that summarises my notes from that meeting. That's it for me.
Councillor McMillan.
Thank you. I think there's an announcement coming up about that, all the bypass stuff, but that's all I'm going to say about that. 2.5 years, getting info around out of the place, it's been glacially slow, and it doesn't seem to be improving much. The slowdown in the last 4 to 6 weeks, and the reason I say that is increased rate fire and truck driver complaints. Wet weather has made the potholes and any drainage issues very apparent. So potholes have been there full of water and they look bad. But just stuff that to add to the list that Councillor Court started. Things we've brought up: Tahi Rise road condition and water reservoir stability. The engineering design of the stormwater under centre, that's nearly 2 years old now, and that was a lot of money proposed to do that for that particular engineer. Haven't heard a thing, but it hasn't been done. Second, Waikino road condition, dangerous. Parapara Road, 150 metres of red clay outside the Papakāinga housing. And there's seal outside the marae as well, which failed shortly after completion. Probably should have been fixed under the defect liability period. On the upside, Ventia, our southern contractor, trialling the find and fix, just finding stuff, fixing it as they go. So they've got a truck with all the gear to fix things. That's looking pretty good. Phase 2 and 3 slip repairs. What, when, where? When's the main one? The procurement process. I realise there's been some design. There's plenty of design, because the 2 and 3, most of them are exactly the same. They're going to be retaining wall or gaping cage, stone, whatever. We should have been onto that. We're now winter. I'd suggest we're not going to be doing any of that until next October, probably. Resource and building consent issues. These are still infrastructure items. Example, Maurio was approved. Building a trust. Tiariri still on hold. Additional info has been was asked for and has been sent. No response. I was talking to John Lampano Monday. Council Bridge and Culvert. This has come up. John brought this up a while ago. Culvert H32. The ownership. So the bridge or culverts are Council Road. The floodgate apparently is not. So can we just get someone to find out who actually owns it, who's responsible for these? Working groups. We've got working groups for all sorts of things. Taipa, Rawini, Kaikoui, Otagonia, Marbury, wastewater. Councillors need them updates as well. I don't actually see them. And I think we're missing massive cost. We've got an item here coming up to do with the Kaikoui wastewater and water circulation. It's huge cost. Be nice to see what's going on later on today. Complaints from external parties not getting response to requests, whether it's an email, presumably emails. Example is, she's still online, Deirdre, PA to Grant McCullum this morning. She's asked for a number of things over the last wee while. No response at all, not even I've received her email. Need to tidy that up. And then Redwood's recommendation. So I'd like to propose a recommendation to go to full council. Have we look at that? Marissa, could you could you read my writing? Could you put that up, please?
I might need help at the end of it, sorry.
That's all right. So what I was wanting to do was recommend to council that the redwood trees on reserve be removed urgently under the health and safety legislation to reduce risks to public who walk through from Hawkins Crescent to the Kerikeri High School, and the residents in the retirement village and Hawkins Crescent residential homes. And also that after President Grimes, that could become B then, please, Marissa. And B is going to be the financial risk to ratepayer, which will include insurance premiums, excess and consequential loss due to council negligence. And there's nothing emotive about this. This is life. If you've ever played with these big trees.
And the CE reports the financial risk.
Yeah, you can do whatever you like, but we just need to update it, get it up to full council.
It's just that B is not a action, just a statement.
Well, the whole lot is report. Take the B out then.
Yeah. But you need.
And sorry, this will be, the recommendation will be that we, A, note the verbal reports, and B, Roman numeral I, Roman numeral. What, thanks for that, Councillor Millie.
I'll second this.
Oh, it's gonna be a part of the, I'm just going through all the verbal updates before I put it on the
All
table.
right.
We'll go to Councillor Radich.
Thank you. I think I've finished. Would you like me to write your list?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Moko. Yeah, I did a check-up on the Kaira sewage ponds at Burnetts Road and at Aipa after the storm. And things all look quite good. We didn't get the volume of rain, but we certainly got the wind. So there was very little of any raw sewage ending up in rivers. I was a bit disturbed the other week regarding a comment made by Guy regarding the Sweetwater aquifer and that he's been negotiating with Ngāi because Ngāi is putting down a dam, and that council hook onto that dam as a backup to the Sweetwater aquifer. Now, that's pretty confusing because we have a backup with the Aoni River. And just imagine that pipeline, what the cost would be to that pipeline, to that dam. I just can't work that one out. It's it really amazes me. As you all know, the Sweetwater aquifer is working. 2,830 cubes of water is flowing into Kaira every day. And I couldn't get really any sense from Guy regarding why we are hooked on to the Aoni River, because the people of Kaira need to know this, because they all believe that we're hooked onto the Sweetwater aquifer and that's it. They have no idea that it's been mixed up with the Aoni River. And either Guy or Tania needs to explain to the people in Kaitaia, by news media, why we are doing this. I can't see any sense in it because just running those pumps 24 hours a day from the Aoni River is costing the ratepayer thousands and thousands of dollars. And we need to clean that up quickly, or else, news media wise, I might have to go that way. I am going to move a motion at the next council meeting that an independent judicial review be immediately done on the Sweetwater aquifer. And the reason why I want to do this, I've been involved with the Sweetwater aquifer over 10 years now. And Anne has been involved in that also. And the costs, I come to a stage you just don't believe in them. You know, for instance, Tania said was 17.3. I asked Blair King 18.9. I asked Janice Smith when she was doing the finance. We need to, get a cost from her. What this cost? She said, "Yep, I'll get it." Never heard from her. I got something from Harry, but we need to open this all up because at the end of the day, it's the ratepayer that's paid for this, and they want to know where their money went. That's it. Thank you.
Aye. I'm going to move. Councillor McNally is going to move the recommendation, put it on the table. Get that for us, please. And I will second it, and that is that we note the verbal reports that have been given. We take member Stewart Jarvik, please. And we recommend to council that there. Councillor McNally, as leader, would you like to speak to it at all? Sam, would anyone like to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Koukou.
I'm not unsympathetic to the Kirikiri Retirement Village. And if I had those trees hung on my boundary, I'd probably want them to go too. Your worship, a video came out last week of you talking, and the post that went up on social media showed our road construction team chainsawing up a tree in the Kirikiri CBD that came down in that storm. If that tree had hit someone, would we have the same conversation about taking out every single tree in the Kirikiri CBD? I worry about the reactive nature where a tree falls down.
This is 15 years.
Councillor McNally.
Trees fall down. They fall down for any number of reasons. And where we know a tree is rotten, and we have arborists assess them every year, we do take them out. I don't think there is a case to be made that council has been. I'm concerned that we make these decisions on the spur of the moment without a considered strategic approach. I'm also mindful that the trees in our district are a delegation of the community board, and this is stepping over the authority that we have given to them under delegated authority. So while I am sympathetic to the Kirikiri Retirement Village wanting the trees gone, and I wouldn't lose any sleep if this resolution was to be successful, I am really concerned with statements that appear in B2. And I'm really concerned that if we want to take this approach every time something awful happens, and let's take a preemptive strike and just cut down every tree that council has on its land anywhere in the district, and then we won't have a problem.
I agree with that.
So I just wanted to put that case because the community board are not here today. They have diligently every year commissioned a report on the stand of trees. And as a result of that report, a number of those trees have been removed. And to recommend that today without the courtesy of at least going back to them in the first instance suggests to me that we don't respect the delegation that we've given to the community board, and we don't respect that the role they have in the community. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor Court. Deputy Administrator.
I don't have time to find the significance and engagement policy, but I have a feeling that trees are in there. And I also maybe recall in back. I don't know if it was this term or the previous term or the term before that, the community board made a recommendation to council to have the trees removed then. But we were lobbied by those in the community opposed to the trees being removed. I support the resolution today, and I'm not trying to undermine the community board or community members that are, I love trees. I, support native trees being planted in place of these redwoods. But I have seen where the health and safety legislation trumps everything. We had a similar issue in Koukou on the Johnson Park, Johnson Park, where the community board were like, hey, how come we're not being asked for permission to have these removed? But the trees that had to come out had died and were going to fall. So the risk to life trumps the delegation at community board level, and I'm sure that the community board members that sit on the boards know that. What I would like to see with this resolution is that because this has to go to council, despite this happening, whatever timeframe this happens, acting CE is obligated to, check that arborist report, check our health and safety obligations and act, immediately, despite that coming later. So I don't want to see us waiting 2 months to address dead redwood trees that are imminently going to fall on students walking through Hawkins Crest, or, oldies walking to the New World supermarket, or, the people that are in the village. And I did oppose, I supported the voices in Kirikiri that lobbied to keep these trees. But I can totally relate to the brewers that stood here this morning, and they nearly lost their son. And a tree, the reality of a tree falling happened and nearly killed somebody. So, and I support us exploring ways to keep the ratepayer costs of the removal of these trees down. So reaching out to foresters that can remove it would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McNally. Sorry, Councillor Research.
Yeah, I support it as well. In fact, I've been in a situation where trees that I didn't plant, but I actually ended up owning them. It could go over houses. And I used to wake up when there was the slightest blow in fear, especially after heavy rain, because some have already fallen down. Luckily, no one was killed. And look, I would help to live with myself if someone did get killed. And trees are just trees. They're nothing special about those trees. I know that's a value there because it's been planted many years ago. But as was shown and not detected, it was rotten in the centre. And so I think we've got an obligation. So that's why I support it, to actually do what is necessary to make that safe for elderly residents. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Councillor McNally wrote a reply.
Thank you. Marissa, can you bring up that email I sent you, those photos, please? This doesn't relate just to these trees, so I'm pleased that Councillor Court brought up the concept that we knock all the dangerous ones down. The Ferry Pools Lane, the road leading to Ferry Pools, there are gums and redwood on that council land. There's also the trees in the old Bingland property, right along the western boundary. So there's properties off Kerry Ferry Road, Clark Street, Penn Street, and down Fairway Drive that are affected by it. The Woodlands Motel and Stay Apartments are both at risk of these trees, whether they're in the Bing property, but I'll just refer to the ones on the road, Ferry Pools Lane. They're big enough, if they fall to the northeast, they will hit the Cornerstone Church. If they go the other way, there's a whole lot of housing along there that will be impacted. The photo on screen there, that's a bit of wood I pulled out of the very top of the tree that was down on, there's two sides to that. I've taken photos of both sides. That was just coming out of the middle, out of the heartwood. The base of the tree, the roots in the base of that tree, none of them were attached. The ones on the outside, you can see where they're broken, they might have still been on life. There's another one there of a tree on a lean. Oh, yeah, that's it. See that one in the middle of that picky with it? If it comes back. See the one there on the angle? That is direct line, fall line will hit a house in Hawkins Crescent. Possibly two of them, definitely one. If we're lucky, it'll land on the road. That's going to come out. These trees, when you go and have a look at them, and I'm not sure how many of you have been in there and had a look. I met with Lane Air on, over the weekend, Tuesday morning, I had a look at them. And while he, is part of the community board, he was interesting to chat to, is all I was saying. Pretty keen on them staying. But he understands the risk. The reason I put in there that consequential loss, that it is, we don't do something, even if it's get the arborist to go through and chop every tree every 10 metres and check them for health, you can see the tops are dead. If you go and have a look, the tops are dead in a number of those trees, probably over 30%. I'm not an arborist, but I'm really concerned about this. And if any of you have ever been, I've felled lots of trees, and these are bloody dangerous, these things. There's a friend of mine on Redcliffs Road, top of the hill there. She's got a line of, on her boundary, on the road boundary, a line of cryptomeria. Almost the entire line blew over the other day, squashed one of her residents' cars in the backpackers, or B&B, whatever it is, and her horse float. This is risk. I'm not a motive. I'm just telling you, this will cost money at some stage. This is the time. If I was a motive, I'd probably be in the unit, one of those units right now and be a bit concerned, but I'd get my chainsaw and go and start chopping the bastards down. That's me.
Well, if Français, I'll swear in my council chamber.
Can I abandon the place for
Yeah,
now?
I'm allowed to do that. All right, we've had the right of. This is recommending to council. So it has to come back to council. I asked that as a part of that, staff capture the concerns and things raised within this, regardless of fixed anonymous recommendation, so that that comes to us as part of the report. But irrespective of that, someone needs to actually go check it now, sort out any that are going to fall on anyone. Okay, we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed, abstentions. Thank you. That is carried. We are now going to go to item 6.1, our Te Koukou open resolutions update for April 25, which I will move. I'll see the seconded by Councillor Research. There's one in there. It's the average speed cameras that are being installed between Kaitai and Akipara by NZTA as part of a trial. Already signed it off. And I believe staff have followed up with a briefing or an update to us in our email. So I don't have any questions on that one, but we'll just pick it and hopefully that that's a managed speed along the area, which is very dangerous and so formed part of the reason why we agreed to reducing the speed limits on the council research.
No comment. No comment from me.
Anyone else? We'll put it to a vote. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed or abstentions, that's carried. We now go to item 6.2 on page 28. Infrastructure consenting status report for this moved by Deputy Administrator.
What number are we on?
6.2 on page 28.
Yep.
Seconded by Deputy Administrator.
There's more information over what we can, like, we've got the information on the landfills in here. But what, and I think this came up at another committee meeting. What are the future options with these landfills? Are we going to sit on them as is, you know, for another 24 years? That's the only question that I had come to mind through that report, and it's not really related to consenting status.
Yeah, we'll make sure that we bring a report specifically in relation to
Landfills,
landfills.
strategic, yeah.
Strategies to support.
That'd be great. Thank you.
I don't have any questions. Councillor Hall.
Thank you. I wasn't clear on what the coding was intended to tell me, other than that greenish colour. I don't know what seems to indicate completed when really completed. So my notes were, do the yellow highlighted areas indicate a change? If yes, is it negative or favourable? Can we track completion status of project change by month, i.e. is 60% better than the last year? So just some suggestions if we could add another column, so I don't have to go back and dig out last month's agenda to compare them to, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Do we have, Mary, do we have Miss Ellsmore or Miss Beneki Pollard
So,
to respond?
so through the chair, Simon is on parental leave and Rosamini is the team leader in her absence, and we have Rosalini online. But if I could just confirm that the colour coding, the yellow, does indicate that there was a change from the previous report. But take your note about.
Positive or at variance or adverse variance would be great, thank you.
Was there a question for?
No, it was mainly as the, she's just on this as a speaker to the. All right, we'll put it to the, sorry, Deputy Administrator, write a reply. Put it to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed or abstentions, motion's carried. We go to item 6.3, Transportation Hokianga Ferry Services Contract February 2025 update on page 34.
I'm happy to move.
Moved by councillor Lucic and seconded by councillor Makina. We'll go to councillor Lucic.
I don't think we've got much option except to keep that service going and we'll be doing it, receiving the report and for the update. I do have a question though, I note that there's 500,000 revenue projected, which is like it's on target. And the overall budget is 2.34 million. And it looks like a loss of 1.8 million. I understand there is actually a review coming up for what we're doing, and hopefully in that review they're looking at how to reduce the loss. I'll take it. But a question I have on the question, the difference in i.e. the loss is 71% of that paid, i.e. we just paying our local share. Is that correct? Someone can answer that.
Mr. Val, the food chair.
Yes, the ferry operation is subsidised by NZPA, 71%. And they also received this report. They are interested in the loss and as to move.
Great. Councillor Akina. We will put it to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed, abstentions, that's carried. We'll now go to infrastructure working group updates on page 37. The recommendation is that we receive the report for the updates moved by Deputy Mayor Stratford. Seconded by councillor Akina. Deputy Mayor Stratford.
Just appreciate that we are receiving information on what's happening in the working groups. And we have been on a monthly basis. I just note that we haven't, there was a update in, was it in this agenda or another one, that we are, NLC are notifying the Koukou wastewater treatment plant. And I just thought it would be good to have a sit down with the working group. Just understand if we're all on the same page still. That's the only one. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Akina.
Kia ora. Just a couple of things. So we've got on page 38 in the first column, that the meetings or the next meetings which will be held the 1st of April 25 and March or early April. All those the updates for those work programs come to our next Koukou meeting. I'm just noting that we're almost at the end of April. Oh, what are we? Almost at the end of April now. So if we haven't received them at this meeting, will they come to the next one? Yes. Good point. Next part-time for column number 2 on page 38 for the Rawene wastewater treatment plant. Has the EC unit been installed yet at the Rawene wastewater treatment plant site? Or are the community and our staff deliberating on whether it's going to be installed on a new property that was purchased by us, I think it was late 2024. Was it this year? I can't remember.
So through here, my understanding is that they're in the process of the installation. I did see quite a bit of correspondence around the location for the solar panels, etc. So the installation of that is actually on the existing site and not on the entrance plan.
So we'll wait to see if it's going to be installed, the whole electrocoagulation unit on the current site with the solar panels before considering if it's going to be moved to the new site, which is directly opposite that wastewater treatment plant site.
So through the chair, what I could do, I can't answer that particular point at this time, but what I could do is request an update from the project manager around that.
So just on the back of that, I'm just conscious about what the costings are involved in setting it up at the current site, and then all of a sudden, because we bought the new site already, we go, oh, geez, we actually said that we're going to move this to the new site. That's why we purchased it in the first place, and then we've got extra costs to move all those solar panels. There's no batteries involved, by the way. They decided not to have batteries involved in this, in those solar panels, but we're going to build this great big thing, and then we decide, oh, geez, we've actually got to move it across the road to our new property. So if we can have an update on that. And also we've got discharge to land. Is that still necessary if we've got electrocoagulation system being installed?
So through the chair, yes, because it's we're still going to have treated waste. It's still going to be treated wastewater, so we still have to discharge it at some point.
Wetlands.
And Councillor McNally mentioned this early on about representatives and all these working groups. Most of the councillors, or even actually community board members, are on working groups. However, I just note that in the end tables, there's a lot of representatives have been assigned, whether they be staff. I'm not too sure whether they are just staff or staff and elected members. I'm pretty sure that a lot of the councillors and community board members would be interested in being representatives on these working groups. If that's a possibility, even if the comms just went out and said, hey, we've got this working group for Waiwhamarae and Matarabirahu, are you interested? Do you have time, space, capability to be a part of this working group? Okay. And on page 39 in the membership down the bottom, an email had been sent through to Kahu Priority Trust and Ngāpui. Is that Te Runanga Aiwi o Ngāpui? Page 39.
I'm unable to confirm which one it is, but I can get back.
Okay. Beyond that, thank you very much for this. This is quite a lot. I can't imagine how much work it takes to get all this put on paper. But, just acknowledging and recognising the hard work of the staff killed it.
Thank you, Councillor Vucic, then Councillor Hauki Parawira.
Thank you, Timothy, a lot of the questions here you've gone through, so I won't go through again. But one I did have, a lot of the working groups, as with the electrical regulation, looking at new technology and disposal to land. So are we taking those things seriously? Because some of the savings and costs are significant, and I do know there's trials required in various things. Are we looking at that seriously? I'd like to sure give the answer. Because when I hear that the new site which we purchased for that purpose and discharge to land is going to be probably uphill from that somewhere near. So are we incorporating the desires of the working group into our final designs and solutions?
So through the chair, in that particular wastewater treatment plant, my understanding is that yes, there's good ongoing engagement between council and the working group representatives around all aspects to do with the treatment plant. There, I can't give you any detailed insight into what that is. Tanya would probably be the best person to come back to you around that, but my understanding is with that particular site, yes. Did that answer the question?
Councillor Aaron, how do we do?
Ai, kia ora tātou. Aroha mai mō taku tūreiti harea ki te tangi, te kahukura ariki, o te tuatano Mike Smith. Just mō taipa, just I tuhi au ki te etai o ngā kaimahi, ko ngā ingoa o ngā hapu o Ngāti Kahu, te mahi ana ki taipa. Ko Ngāti Whata, ko Ngāti Tara, me Matakairiri. Wera ngā ingo ngā hapu. And I got an email late last night, message or whatever, that Parapara Marae has had to close because of the problems with septic in the area. And it's a pretty important marae. And they were asking, I couldn't remember the technician's name for the electrocoagulation unit. They were asking if there were smaller, well, this might be irrelevant, but smaller units that they could use in their marae and neighbouring places where the wastewater system is suiting. I'll get that off somebody later. But just a note that, you know, I see figures all the time talking about our growth, the high growth in Aotearoa whānui as well as in our area. And this is becoming an issue that's holding up housing development. What's the name of that guy from Taipa? The expert. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah. European uncle.
Yes.
Right, Deputy Administrator to write a reply.
Mary, are you able to explain that stream diversion at the Koukou wastewater treatment plant?
Through the chair, so explain why it's required. So my understanding is that it is connected to a previous piece of work which inadvertently created a wetland down in that area. And so the stream diversion is to accommodate that wetland so that we don't interfere with that.
So it's not affecting our compliance?
No.
All right, but it will if it was left unresolved eventually.
Yes, not our wastewater compliance,
Okay,
but it's to do with the wetland itself.
all right, thank you. That's all, thanks.
All right, all those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed, abstentions. That's carried, and because we have Doug in the room, we'll go on to go to item 6.5, compliance on page 44. The recommendation is that we receive the report. Deputy Stratford, second of research, Deputy Stratford.
No problem.
Thank you.
Councillor Usage. We'll put it to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed, abstentions, that is carried. We will now go
Thanks, Dave.
on break for lunch until 1 p.m. where we will pick up.
Thank you.
I like.